got a couple here that I wrote at a workshop Chris put on that was down at the museum here a couple months ago. I may look like I'm here, but maybe I'm on a schooner, flying from wave top to wave top, washing my face in the spray. I may be here, but maybe I'm walking the crest of the mountains, following my nose to ripe huckleberries, wondering if they would also attract a bear. I am here, but maybe I'm strapped into a screaming machine, pedal down, faster than fast, leaning into the corner, seeking the flag of white and black. I am here, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm at the roundup, vying for the all-around. I only need 8 seconds on the D8-sized cat bull named Death Awaits. I am here, but maybe I'm at Esther Shortfest, having an adult beverage with friends, dancing, and telling harmless lies of prowess. I am here, but I know I won't be long. Imagination fertilized the grass of my mind, and it always is greener than reality. I might have to slap it.
Get that thing away from me.
And the main theme of that was how you came to Vancouver, and this is mine for that. I came from the East, not the Far East, Middle East, or even the East Coast. No, I came from east of the near mountains. I came down the big ditch, just like the pioneers that rode the wagons. If they stuck to the river like I did, they paid no toll, except maybe with their lives. Like the pioneers, I came for opportunity, a new beginning of sorts, or perhaps a different version of the past. Work for money, ply my trade, hang out and see what this new place has to offer, to keep the ghosts from the near past at bay, discovering new ghosts to take their place.
Thanks, Bruce. And I've learned so much from Bruce, and because we grew up in a really different way. I really appreciate his work and appreciate his support of the workshops. And we'll be talking more about some of the workshops that are coming up later on. Our special guest, our featured reader tonight, has come all the way from Connecticut. It's special not just because of how far he's come, but some of you know this about me. All of my family is on the East Coast. So it's a hard way to live if you love your family. You know what I mean? Like if you actually want to spend time with them, to be on the other coast from them. So it's very special to have Reggie here. He's my father's cousin, which I believe makes him my second cousin. So that's one of the reasons why it's great to have him here. Reggie, like a lot of East Coasters, is a person with a sense of humor who knows how to talk some shit, which means that he fits right in here at Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic. This is Reggie's new book, Killing America, Our United States of Ignorance, Fear, Bigotry, Violence, and Greed, Reggie Marra's 4th book of poems. As with his This Open Eye, Seeing What We Do, Marra unflinchingly sees, writes, and shares with the reader verbal snapshots of his country's late 20th and early 21st century culture of violence as it manifests at home and abroad. His poems both grieve slaughtered schoolchildren, unarmed black men, ambushed law enforcement officers, church, concert, and moviegoers, military veterans, and victims of American foreign policy violence in the Middle East, and indict the leaders who refuse to act amid or implicitly condone the ongoing slaughter. One of the real sort of like privileges of reading like Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic, as we've already seen here this evening, is to try to create and hold a space for people to talk about the things that we really ought to be talking about more. And so I appreciate all of you for helping us to hold that space, and please continue to hold it for my family member and friend and person I very much admire, Reggie Marra.
That's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So on September 4th, we mailed one copy of this to every United States senator, congressperson, Supreme Court justice, each president and each vice president as well. So 542 books went out. So far, my house is still standing. But I haven't been home in 3 days.
Probably a drone circling.
So I'm actually a pretty happy guy, but these poems aren't particularly happy poems. With that, the first two are images out of Iraq, and then the third one, these are very short poems. The third one is a found poem. This open eye. Swollen shut, the right eye seeps semi-clotted blood that streams and blotches a map of hell across the 3-year-old face. Wide open, the left eye appears injury-free, untouched, but ultimately more lethal. Through this open eye, the child sees the world that has closed the other. This is called Going Home. Near Kirkuk, 5 soldiers watch or work while 2 wheel the blood-soaked gurney from the inflated OR. The sergeant's leg amputated and discarded, time will tell if he will be as well. So those two came out of photographs, came from photographs in the Iraq War. And this third one is it's one of 11 found poems in the book. I used to think those were just lazy poems, but they're really not. This is March 16th, 2018. The number of children killed by gunfire in the U.S. since the 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, surpasses the total of American soldiers killed in overseas combat since 9/11, according to a Department of Defense report. Yeah, I can actually see this better without my glasses. I live about 15 minutes from Sandy Hook. One of the parents who lost a son was a student of mine in Sacred Heart High School in Yonkers, New York, back in 1982. And this is probably, for me, this is the kind of iconic photograph, one of the iconic photographs from the shooting at Sandy Hook. It's called Sunny December New England Morning. The children walk across the sunlit parking lot, long, late autumn shadows falling to their left. Most, as rehearsed, hold their hands on the shoulders of the child in front of them. Some cry. Some look confused. Some have their heads down as 2 uniformed officers and 2 plain-clothed women guide them away from the building. The adults don't yet know the enormity of the day, and while the children know less, some are young enough to feel the grown-ups' discomfort in the chaos of sirens, lights, shouting, and guns. Time will pass, and a Florida woman who believes the parking lot scene and all the events of this day are a hoax will be charged with making death threats against a parent of one of the 20 first graders killed. Other survivors will be harassed by Americans who argue the event was staged to erode support for the Second Amendment. And a Connecticut man will be charged for allegedly phoning in a death threat to the new Sandy Hook Elementary School, which replaced the school that was damaged after the massacre. So the goal of the book was to see the violence across the board and try to avoid taking sides. Whether it's an ambushed cop, it's an unarmed black man, a first grader, a concert goer, a military veteran or an Iraqi or Afghanistan civilian. It's just no good. So this is called I Was Mad at the Time. While responding to a disturbance at the club on Flatbush Avenue, Officer Justin Volpe is hit and knocked down and mistakenly thinks Haitian immigrant Abner Louima has punched him. Officers arrest Louima for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Volpe later admits punching the immigrant in the police car on the way to the station, and once there, taking him to a bathroom and sodomizing him by jamming a stick in his rectum. I was mad at the time, he says, when he pleads guilty in the middle of his trial, admitting he wanted to humiliate and intimidate the suspect. I told him, if you tell anybody about this, I'll find you and I'll kill you. So the other side of that, and these, I appreciated the applause, and these are really hard things to applaud after, I understand that, so I kind of get that. Actually, I hate applause, that's why I read this kind of poem. That's not true. And I've never said that before, seriously. This is called Ambush, and it's kind of a counterpoint to that previous poem. Two police officers sitting in their patrol car in Brooklyn are shot point blank and killed by a man who travels from Baltimore vowing to kill police, and who later commits suicide with the same gun. Officers Wenjon Liu and Rafael Ramos are in the car near Myrtle and Tompkins Avenues in Bedford-Stuyvesant in the shadow of a housing project when Ismail Brinsley walks up to the passenger side window, assumes a firing stance, and shoots several rounds into the heads and upper bodies of the officers who never draw their weapons. He then flees down the street and onto a subway platform where he kills himself as the police close in. They recover a silver semi-automatic handgun. Brinsley has a rap sheet that includes robbery and carrying a concealed gun, and is believed to have shot his former girlfriend near Baltimore before traveling to Brooklyn. His statements on social media suggest that he is angered about Eric Garner and Michael Brown cases, and that he plans to kill police officers. Authorities in Baltimore send a warning about these threats, but it is received too late. The shootings, the chase, the suicide, and the failed bid to save the lives of the officers turn a busy commercial intersection on the Saturday before Christmas into a scene of pandemonium. The city's some 300 killings so far this year is a number so low as to be unheard of 2 decades ago. So this is a more recent tragedy, which all of you remember. It's called Early Autumn Southwest Evening. And this again came from a photograph. For me, it was the iconic photograph from this particular shooting. The music stops. The young women holding hands, their tank tops, shorts, boots, long flowing brown hair, and the young man in a black tee, blue jeans and boots to their right, capture a neon backlit American summer evening. They run, semi-crouched amid food and beverage containers strewn across the open space, while those behind them kneel, crawl, crouch, and cower along the fence, unsure where the shooter is and when the shooting will stop, if ever. So those, obviously were from images and photographs and some news articles. This is a question that I thought had to be asked based on all of that. So this is kind of an interim poem. It's called Books, Bullets, Weapons, and Words. What does it say about a people who regularly attempt to protect our children from the likes of Holden, Harry, Scout, and Scarlett, but who spend hundreds of millions of dollars to guarantee their ongoing exposure to Glock, Bushmaster, Remington, and Winchester. What is it about Mark, Toni, Zora, and John? What is it about what Mark, Toni, Zora, and John do with words to minds and hearts that's so much more frightening than what Colt, Browning, Ruger, and Smith and Wesson do with bullets to bodies and hearts? What does it say about a culture in which opinions and statistics on addiction, obesity, depression are as common and transitory as weather and traffic reports, and in which we still hesitate with Anne Frank, the Lorax, Twelfth Night, and James and the Giant Peach, but readily embrace the billion-dollar narratives of aripiprazole, esomeprazole, magnesium, adalimumab, and rosuvastatin in our lives? And what does it say about us if we protest that one of these or something like it is keeping us or a loved one alive, or that we feel safer trusting a bullet's impact than a book's, or that ideas are more dangerous than ignorance? It says our views are partial. We're missing the point of the poem, the book, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in a universe that continues to evolve, whether we happen to like evolution's direction or not. Thank you. So the next one is the longest one I'll read tonight. It takes about 4 minutes, so I'm going to put some water on my throat. Excuse me. And this poem cites as a quote from Rabbi Mark Gelman, who was a New York, still is a New York rabbi. It's a fairly long quote. You'll recognize it. I'll note it when I begin, but I mentioned his name in the poem. This is called Broken Branches. Rilke wrote that he wanted a lot, perhaps everything. But what I want if I have to have a House, Senate, President, and court are people who see at least as much of the world as I do, preferably more, who can consciously recognize and hold paradox, who are clear on what they are for and not just what they oppose, who spend more time and energy with the former and are able to articulate complete thoughts in complete sentences with or without a teleprompter, and who understand the words they speak, the meaning their syntax conveys, and avoid cliches and won't speak words that are not true. I want a House, Senate, President, and court who embrace an increasingly balanced, comprehensive, and inclusive view of the world, and who, faced with both love and fear, err on the side of love, and recognize and live with the healthy tensions along the continua of wisdom and compassion, justice and mercy, intimacy and solitude, who recognize that we all suffer within our individual and collective stories, and who understand that people are more important than money and things. Especially, but not only, when it comes to health violence and gun care. I want a House, Senate, President, and court who feel and speak from exactly the same gut-wrenching heartache when the first grader, the police officer, the black man, the soldier, yes, the human being dies a violent death in Bethesda or Baghdad, Singapore or Sandy Hook, San Bernardino or Saigon, Hiroshima or Harlem, Parkland or Pearl Harbor, San Salvador or Selma, New York or Nagasaki, Kabul or Kansas City, Binghamton or Beirut, Auschwitz or Oakland, Paris or Pine Ridge, Washington, Aurora, Littleton, Chicago, Dallas, Baton Rouge, Red Lake, Fort Worth, Orlando, Killeen, Salt Lake City, St. Paul, Austin, Blacksburg, Wakefield, Roseburg, San Ysidro, Edmond, Omaha, Louisville, Atlanta, New Rochelle, Las Vegas, Charleston, Aztec, Benton, Santa Fe, Annapolis, and more recently, Bakersfield. And all those I left out because there are too many. If I have to have a House, Senate, and President and court, I want a human being who understands what Rabbi Gelman meant when 12 days later at the stadium, before we knew the real numbers, he said that on that day, 6,000 people did not die. On that day, one person died 6,000 times. We must understand this in all catastrophes in such a way, for big numbers only numb us to the true measure of mass murder. We say 6,000 died, or we say 6 million died, and the saying and the numbers explain nothing except how much death came in how short a time. Such numbers sound more like scores or ledger entries than deaths of human beings. The real horror of that day lies not in its bigness, but in its smallness, in the small, searing death of one person 6,000 times. And that one person was not a number. That person was our father, or our mother, or our son, or our daughter, our grandpa, or grandma, our brother, or sister, or cousin, or uncle, or aunt, or friend, or lover, our neighbor, our co-worker, the woman who delivered our mail, or the guy who put out the fires, or arrested the bad guys in our town. And the death of each and every one of them alone would be worthy of such a gathering and such a grief. That's the end of the quote. I want representatives, senators, a president, and justices who would read to the end of this poem. And not because it would help them politically or they were expected to. I want representatives, senators, a president, and justices who would read a poem and not just oppose it. So I was going to do two more. That was actually delivered before they knew the numbers. That was the Yankee Stadium memorial service on September 23rd, 2001, when they thought 6,000 people had been lost before they actually knew the numbers. So I'm going to do one more from this book, and then one more that's kind of a happy-ish poem. just to,
ready for a happy
just to see if I can get through one like that. This is after Naomi Shihab Nye, who's one of my favorite poets. It's called, and again I apologize, but it's not a happy poem. It's This Day Our Daily Dead. We wonder and worry what it will take for our country, women and men, to feel again this tender gravity, this pull of and toward kindness, the way we did when we were very young children. We do not need our passports. We need not travel beyond our borders, giving ourselves this day our daily debt as we do, rarely really seeing them, though, protected as we agreed to be from the truth of what we do and who we are. 20 first graders are not enough. Yet another unarmed black man or ambushed cop is not enough. Concert and moviegoers and dancers are not enough. A shopper, a bus driver, a landscaper, still not enough. High school students, not enough. We don't know if it will ever be time to look at the images no one wants to see because they're too disturbing, unless they're broken or burned beyond recognition un-American bodies. But our relentless refusal to look deeply at what's disturbing is itself disturbing. Our terrified turning away from what is traps us ever more tightly in it, as if that ever-growing malignancy will on its own dissipate and disappear if we make believe it's not there, even though we feel its pressure within our hearts every moment. Peekaboo, it says, how much more of me do you need? How much bigger do I need to be before you admit I'm part of you? And you have the will to do what has to be done, to remove me, before the lost voice of that innocent child within you is truly able to remember and say, all gone. How much more will you ever be enough? I had this marked and I just lost a page. There it is. This is the last one. The first 8 lines are true. The rest of the poem is a complete lie, despite what I said in that earlier poem. And this happened at a poetry reading in Bethel, Connecticut in 1997. This poem turned 21 this year. You can tell because I've read it a lot. I'm showing off. Poets don't drive Porsches, and it's subtitled, What a Word's Worth. A regular, though not a poet, at Eleanor's Cafe asked if any of us owned the Porsche with the lights on. We laughed, then darkened, harmonizing, "Poets don't drive Porsches." We threw a couplet to his chin and raised our iron knees to his tender groin. We reduced him to a rough draft, loudly alliterated and lambasted him, kicked his assonance rhyme and rhyme again. Not knowing where to draw the line, we broke it, dumped a hyperbole of hot soup in his lap, and jammed his fingers, dropped concrete nouns on his iambic feet, piled image upon his fractured muse. We ripped off his shirt and his pantoum, pushed him in front of a runaway quatrain that cracked his spine, then wrapped him till he sang the blues. Thank you for laughing. I've read this word, nobody laughed before. It's really scary. Our truculence left satire marks across his body. When he pleaded for a doctor, we called two, a paradox who just confused him. We pierced him with a spear, then shook it, and he gasped, "Please, don't Shakespeare. This is no pun at all. As you pound the life from me, I feel great pain, and though I may not be swift, I fear that I am done. Too late have I learned what a word's worth. Poetic license notwithstanding, poets don't drive Porsches." Almost gone, he turned toward the proprietress as if to prove some point, and whimpered with his final breath, "I'm not a villain, Elle." Thank you.
Before you sit down, say a word about your workshop tomorrow.
Oh, so tomorrow night, if you can stand more pain. More seriously, tomorrow night at 6:30 we're doing, I'm conducting a workshop here on narrative healing. It's what I've been practicing, even though I didn't know the name of that for about 30 years in my poetry and in my writing. But with a colleague out in Berkeley, California, we've been teaching it for the last 3 years, and it's a research-based approach to using writing as a healing modality, which isn't news to probably anybody in this room. If you're writing regularly, but it's we found one approach that works, and tomorrow will be a 2-hour overview of that. So anybody wants to come back, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, give it up one more time for Reggie Marra. We are going to take a break, but before we do that, I want to make a few announcements, and of course there'll be more announcements after the break as well. I have a full description of the workshop that Reggie will be teaching tomorrow night. It costs $35. You don't have to pay until you arrive, and it'll be in this room. The room will be arranged slightly differently, but that's where we're going to do it. It will be on the table at the tiki bar here, along with the books that are for sale tonight. There are 2 of Reggie's books are here for sale, and there are other announcements that are there as well. And if for some reason you're not able to join us after the break, one of the things you can find on the Tiki Bar is the flyer for next month's reading. Our guest next month will be coming here from LA, Geneva Chow, and that's Thursday, October 11th, so I hope you can join us for that. And we have a guest here who would like to tell you about an event that is also going to be happening at the gallery, so if you don't mind, take a moment to let them know about what will be happening here in October. Let them know who you are.
Hello everybody, I'm Nikki Johnson, and so next month on October 24th, I will be hosting essentially a poetry slam. And so currently I go to Washington State University. I am the poetry editor for the Salmon Creek Journal, and we are looking for basically poets who aren't afraid to get up and be at this very podium right here and basically recite their poetry. And so in order to do that, we need you to fill out a submission form. And then I will review it with my team of 5 other editors. And we will basically pick probably like 20 poets or something like that. And then we'll be back in this very room right here and have a fantastic time. Do you guys have any questions? Sure. Not necessarily. Anyone's basically available to sign up for it. It'll basically be mostly people from WSU, but we will select a very small group of people from outside of our community as well, so anyone is welcome. Hi.
How long is the reading time, and do things need to be memorized?
They do not need to be memorized, and it'll basically be from 7 to 10.
But how long for the...
Oh, probably no more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Ready? Cool, thanks.
Yeah, and there's some flyers about that here as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So since 2004, Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic has been a long night, so we want to give you a chance to stretch your legs, get some food and drink, get some air, and buy some books. The single best way to support a traveling poet is to buy a book from that poet. And so 2 books here from Reggie. I'll be over there at the Tiki Bar selling those, and I'm sure that Reggie would be willing to sign them if you pick up a copy. And so we'll be back here in about 15 minutes for more Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic. Thanks for being with us.